I watched somebody quit last week. It wasn't dramatically, she didn't storm out. She just decided she was done being treated the way she's being treated, and she left. And she didn't have the next thing lined up, and she was so terrified. And I sat with her for a couple of days because I recognized that exact look on her face. I've made that face. I've made it in a parking lot outside an office building about 5 years ago. So I want to talk about that leap, not the motivational version, the actual mechanics of it and what I got wrong, and the thing nobody tells you about the part right afterwards. Who am I? I'm Marian, and here's why I'm allowed to talk about this. I have an MBA. I spent close to a decade in corporate sales leadership. I was in the insurance industry, and I was with several top 100 companies. I was really good at it, and I want to be clear about that because there's a version of this story where the person leaves because they were failing, and that's a different story. I was hitting my numbers, and I was really enjoying my work that I was doing with the company. I was managing a team, I was working with leaders. I was on the track that you're supposed to want to be on. But the entire time I was doing that, I was also building another business on the side. I had dreams of being a little bit more on the creative side, and so I started working nights, weekends, early in the morning before work for years. And then I eventually left corporate. And now I do photography and I consult with women who are building businesses. So I've done that leap. I've watched other people do the leap, and that's the part that actually matters. I now spend a lot of my time talking to women who are standing at the edge of one and cannot make themselves take that next scary step. So that's where my expertise comes in. Not only that I've jumped, but also that I've listened and worked with hundreds of people explain it to me why they can't take that next step. Here's the picture people have in their heads. It's a little bit scary. So you're standing at the edge of the cliff, and on the other side is the thing that you want, and in between is that big old leap. And the leap is either a moment or a decision, and after the decision, you've either made it or you haven't. So that's the whole model, right? One jump and then you land. That model is really intense, and it puts everything into one basket. And it's wrong in a specific way that's actively keeping people stuck. Here's why. The leap is one moment that the moment has to be perfect. You have to have the perfect time. You have to be totally 100% certain. And you have to be super brave enough in that one. And then ideally, you don't have anybody relying on you. You don't have any other responsibilities. You probably have like a super huge savings. You have all your ducks in a row. And on top of all those different perfect things, you feel 100% certain. Like, oh yeah, this is gonna be super easy. But like, I think we can all agree that's literally impossible. So here's what that leap actually is, and it's a lot less perfect or romantic. You're not jumping across a gap. It's like you're walking down a hallway. You make a decision, and the next morning you have to get up and you have to make it again. And then the morning after that. So the decision is not a one thing. It's a decision you remake for about 90 days every single day, usually while feeling like super stressed and awful about it. I didn't quit once. I quit every morning for 3 months. And there are mornings that I would have gone back. If someone had called me and offered me my old job with like a raise or like a slightly different position, I would have taken it and I would have told myself I was being responsible. And nobody really talks about that part, right? Everybody talks about the courage of the decision, but nobody talks about the fact that you have to keep having that courage. That is literally the scariest part ever. And that fear is never really about money. Although obviously money is important. It is pretty helpful in your day-to-day life. And I know sometimes that fear like presents as money. When I ask a woman who hasn't why she hasn't left a job, most of the time she'll talk about like the mortgage or health insurance or the kids or 6 months of a runway. And she doesn't have it yet, so she can't leave yet. And sometimes that is really real. I don't want to discount that. I take it super seriously, and I'm going to come back to that one. But most of the time when I keep asking a little bit more, we get somewhere else. Because what she's actually afraid of is that she'll leave and it won't work. And then she'll have to go back. And going back is unbearable because going back means everyone was right. Everyone who said it was a phase, everyone who said, oh, you're just throwing away a good thing, like your mom or the guy in the next office who's like, oh, you're still doing that little thing, like whatever. So people aren't scared of failing, they're scared of having to fail and walk back and having to make answers or excuses to everybody around them. That shame of fear of failure and that shame is the big thing coming back into it. But having worked with a lot of people and seen it in action, having experienced it, the walk back is very survivable. Because remember, people forget so fast and they're not thinking about you nearly as much as you think. So you'll be fine. But you know what's not survivable? Being 60 and having never found out if your dream could actually make it. So what about that one that I watched last week, that story I told you at the beginning? Let's go back to her. She left because she was being mistreated and she was unhappy. And I want to be careful about how I say the next part because I don't want to make it sound noble and clean. It wasn't. She was a mess. She cried. She second-guessed it within about 4 hours. But here's the thing I noticed, and it's the whole reason I'm making this video. Her body knew before she did. She had been sick for months. And not like just sick, like minor stuff, like sick. That constant thing where you're getting headaches and you're not sleeping and you stopped eating food and you're Sunday around 4, you're like so stressed about going back into work the next day. And she had been doing that for quite a long time, almost 2 years if I remember correctly. That stress, getting older, needed more exercise, it wasn't any of that. It was the job. And her body had figured it out about 18 months before her brain actually agreed to. And it's probably happening to you right now. I want you to think that it might not be a health problem, it might be information. I'm also not going to tell you the thing where everyone just says, just quit your job. That'd be really irresponsible. I don't know your situation, and I'd be lying if I said that's so easy. Some of you should not leave right now. Some of you genuinely cannot afford it, and the leap when you can't afford it, it's not brave, it's a different kind of disaster. So don't do it. But here's how I actually think about the whole situation. The question isn't, should I leap? That's an unanswerable question, and it just makes you anxious. The question is, what is the smallest version of this I could start this month while I still have a paycheck? So here's what I did. I didn't walk out of Allstate from the insurance industry into a photography career. I built the photography business for years while I was still at the job. And I built it in the sides of my life. And I did it when I was tired and when I was stressed and when I didn't think I had enough capacity. But by the time I left, I wasn't leaping into nothing. I was leaping into something that had already existed and I already had clients and I knew that it was working. So it was still super scary, but it wasn't reckless. And that's what a difference is, and that's a very, very important distinction. So if you cannot leave right now, that's not a reason to just sit and not do anything. It's a reason to start building that thing into the cracks of your life so that you can start building that confidence that what you have could actually work. Last thing, everyone tells you that the leap is scary and then it's amazing. The leap is scary and then it's kind of boring. There's a stretch after the adrenaline, after telling everyone, after the first flush of relief, where you are just a person sitting in a room trying to make something work. It's really slow, nothing is happening, and you cannot tell if you're building something or if you're just unemployed with a nice website. And that's the actual test, not the decision, that part. I got through it, and I'm not going to pretend I got through it gracefully. I got through it by having enough to do that I didn't have time to sit around interrogating myself, which is honestly pretty good advice too. Stay busy. The certainty comes later, and it comes from evidence, not from feelings. Remember, feelings don't always tell us the truth. We gotta just keep going. So in conclusion, you're not gonna feel ready. Readiness is something that shows up about, 4, 5, 6 months in, maybe even longer sometimes. It shows up because you've already started, and by the time it arrives, you barely notice it. If your body has been telling you something for a while and you've been explaining it away, you need to stop explaining it. And if you're standing at the edge right now and you've been standing there a long time, tell me what you're waiting for in the comments. Tell me please specifically, not just like the right time, like an actual thing with a date on it. And I'll tell you honestly whether I think it's a reason or excuse, because I love comments and I love to be able to interact in the comments. Again, I'm Marianne. Thank you for staying until the end, and go out and do good things.